So a big reason why people continue to live in sin nowadays is because, quite honestly, is sin has been redefined in what we think is sin. And a lot of that is what we call fun. Fun is probably one of the most biggest delusion and lie that Satan has gotten us to believe to further lead people away from the word, away from the truth, away from sin. Because if you think about it nowadays, is what we call fun, it's immoral, ungodly acts according to the word of God. You think about drinking, you're thinking about getting drunk, you're thinking about partying, you think it's just letting loose and having fun. But the word of God says to be of sober mind. The word of God says that your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a lion, looking for someone to devour, to be sober of mind, so you will not be overcome by the enemy. The world says that legalizing marijuana for medical uses whenever everybody just wants it for recreational uses. And not to say that there's anything necessarily wrong with a medical use of it, but the word of God says to be of sober mind again. When you're under these influences of drugs and alcohol, well, then you're not sober. You're unable to think. You're unable to be aware of your surroundings. It's just fun, but we've taken fun and we've just kind of forgot that, okay, it's fun by the world, but it's ungodly acts to God. It's everything that God said to stay away from. We're just indulging in it and saying, man, it feels good to me because if it feels good, it has to be good, right? Man, if it pleases me, it's gotta be good. It's gotta be okay, but it's not okay. There's a reason why God said to stay away from these things, but Satan has manipulated everybody. The word of God says do not be conformed to the world. Do not be conformed to the devil's standard. The word righteousness means to be conformed to God's standards. So whenever we practice righteousness, whenever we live according to God's will, well, then we are righteous. We are practicing righteousness. We are conforming to God's standards. But whenever Satan is trying to get us to be conformed to what his agenda and what he wants us to believe by what the puppets are pushing out, well, we are no longer living righteous, we are living unrighteous, because we are no longer conformed to God's standards, if that makes sense. Sex, fornication, sex before marriage, it's just fun, it's letting loose, it's stressless. All this stuff has a mean of euphoric release to relieve stress. Drugs, alcohol, sex, all this stuff is like, man, I just need to let loose and have fun and relax a little bit. So again, now we're putting all of our hope for relaxation in something else other than the one true God. The word fun is just, it's not fun, man. Is sin fun? Because it is in a lot of ways. Even Paul knew it was, even Moses knew it was the pleasures of sin. They all said the pleasures of sin, but they also said the pleasures of sin are not worthy. For the wages of sin is death. The wages of sin. And sin and fun have been intertwined. So we no longer know what sin is because we think sin is fun. So now I'm just having fun, so it can't be a sin. But just because the devil has manipulated us to believe it is fun doesn't nullify the fact that it's still our sin. It's self-control. It's the fruit of the Spirit. It's denying the pleasures of the world, the passing pleasures of the world, to be conformed to God's standards and to gain righteousness. So don't be so deceived by what we think is fun nowadays. What the world is pushing at as fun. I remember when I was younger, New Year's was all fun. Going out, going to the club, getting drunk, getting high, doing all this fun stuff that I thought was fun because everybody was doing it. And man, this feel kind of good. It does feel kind of fun. But if the word of God says, hey, this is a sinful act, don't get drunk. Stay away. Stay of sober mind. Don't have a premarital sex. All this stuff's going to lead you further away from His word. Now, I'm not judging or condemning anybody, of course. That's not what I'm trying to get across. But I'm saying is that a lot of us are living and dwelling in sin because we think it is fun. Because Satan is saying it's okay. Because it is fun. But it's not. The word of God says this stuff is sinful, ungodly, wicked acts. Well, then it is. That's not fun. Because let me tell you one thing. That living of a life is that one-way ticket to hell. And man, hell ain't fun.